So good morning. I am with Tom Wentworth, who is a writer, an inaugural reader at Write Up over the summer, and now for Write Up Christmas edition, one of our judges, along with Emma Simpson. Tom, I will have to repeat this information as people pop on, because I think it's probably just you and me right
We
now.
can cut.
But people will watch it in the after we record it. And I think what's really nice, I was thinking about this, is after the recording, obviously it's captioned. So then if you are deaf, you can still like join in and kind of like see what we're talking about. So I was thinking that is actually a good thing to make sure I share afterwards on Instagram.
Yeah, we'll make sure we share the recording in all useful places, and then anyone can access our waffle basically, and that's a marvelous thing.
So what I wanted to ask you, first of all, like, so you're one of the judges on Write Up. So
So exciting. So
so excited. What are you
I
looking forward to?
What am I looking? Well, I've got this lovely treat of having them all in my house at the moment, all the entries. So I'm looking forward to. I have started a little bit of the reading, and I'm looking forward to just seeing the stories that everybody's sent in, but also those themes, because it's such a evocative time. And I said in my little piece for write up. It's about the sparkle, but it's also about the melancholy, and I can already see some of that coming through. So it's really nice to see people's themes, what's attracted them, and just yeah. And I can also see, and Emma mentioned this very strongly in your chat last week, and I want to say it as well. I can see that um, compared to the ones, and I include myself in this last time, I feel like people have got the real vibe of writing for the voice, not just writing for the page, but writing for the voice, which is obviously what I'm going to be looking for because it's an event about reading in public, reading out loud, performing. I don't want to use the word performing because not all writers want to perform, but and I don't think you should have to perform to be a successful writer. But this is the nature of the event, is we're going to share in a lovely, safe and cozy Christmassy space you're writing in your own voice. So it's wonderful to see people have really taken that on board and are not just writing for the page. But I can imagine, even though I don't know who's written each piece.
Oh, yes, because they're anonymous. So you and Emma just have them numbered.
Yeah, I think we should say that we're reading them blind, and that's also a real treat. So the voice in my head is my voice in a sense, rather than anyone I know or another voice. But I can hear when something will take flight in a reading sense, and that's one of my big criteria. So yeah, so I'm excited, and then the treat, of course, will be finding out who they are and hearing their voice. You know,
Yes.
what
And it's interesting to me because obviously, like, I'm thinking about diversity in terms of who they are, all the other ways that we would measure it with the metrics. But for you and Emma, you know that diversity is a category. So when you're reading it, does that make you think about representation and storytelling, but just through the work rather than through the body of the writer?
Yes, that's it exactly. And also, I don't know if I am looking at representation and storytelling
Mm.
at the
At the
representation
moment,
moment in what I would think of as my personal first shift.
yeah,
I'm just looking at um the
voice.
the voice and the pressure behind the words and what the person wants to communicate and how effectively that's been done. And I think then you can go back and think about on a second read you can go back and think about them, but also, and you will know this, Amy, because like me, you've been involved in writing for a very long time. I also trust that the writers who speak to me through just their writing will probably end up being quite diverse, simply because there's some kind of mystical connection between those kind of things. I never know how that works, but it always seems to happen.
It's interesting because we'll be meeting. So you, Emma, and I will have our long listing next week, where we're all gonna bring through. I think we agreed that we'd all bring through like our top 15, didn't we? Of which the ones we want to put forward, and we're not conferring beforehand to see like what we've chosen, and then we'll discuss shortlisting together, and then we'll all have another read and go through the shortlisting process. So for us, like it's going to be 2 weeks of like, I mean, already for me when I'm preparing the long list, it's so it is. It's exciting, but also you do feel an enormous sense of responsibility as well, don't you?
Oh, massive, and that's why I'm reading each one at this stage more than once and trying to give it proper time. And you always when I'm judging something, I've done a lot of selection panels and things like that. Um, Always when you're judging something, you also have to take into account that I'm quite low energy today, so
Mm.
and I was quite high energy yesterday. So are the things I'm reading today going to get the same level of attention, that they all feel the same as the things I read yesterday? You know what I mean? It's quite a challenging little psychological task for yourself, really, as well as the reading. And I want to give everyone a fair. Everyone's written such brilliant pieces. Without giving anything away, the standard is, you must agree, super high.
The standard
Um,
is really good, and I can see for some of the new writers, I'm glad that I know it's unusual that we mix up professional with emerging with new, but I think it helps you to be with other people because for us who've perhaps been doing this for longer, it's lovely to see that energy and that enthusiasm and that passion that you have and the meaning of it when you're new. But also for them, I think it's good to kind of think about how we approach things and kind of like share. I really like the collegiate element of it.
Yeah, and that was always your thing with write up, wasn't it? I mean, that is at the very center of it. Writers getting paid for their writing, and it being a real collegiate thing. And I know that from last time, people have really made connections and had brilliant conversations. It's not just about, well, it's not just about the night. It's about carrying that on and the lead up to it. But it's also not just about the people reading. And I would encourage anyone, even if you don't get through and your piece isn't selected, or even if you didn't submit, come and join us, because you'll get as much from being in the room as the writers will, in a way. It seems a weird thing to say, and I'm not saying it in a kind of uh trite way, but that really is the truth of certainly of the last time's experience. Everybody gained, audience, readers, helpers, everyone gained something, and it'll be the same this time.
Yeah, and there's a real mixture. So obviously you don't know who submitted them, but I do because I have to do the administration. And there are people who submitted last time who've tried again. And that's really interesting to see the shift for me from having read their pieces last time and read again. There's people that came and watched it last time and have now gone, I'm going to have a go and submitted. And I think there's people that saw it happening on Substack and want to be part of it this time. And there's also, of course, people I don't know who they are, like, which is absolutely fine as well. That's always good because if I think back to the summer, like Ranjani, I'd never even met her before. I hadn't spoken to her before, and she did the most
What a
stunning
star,
piece.
what an absolute star. And the first time she met me was me going round saying, "Stand there, go there, there." I mean, old bossy boots here.
Yeah.
Wonder she didn't run a mile.
I'm really excited as well that we're doing this as a team. So there's you, me, and Emma. And of course, lovely Lauren Powell as well, who's going to be running our front of house on the
Lauren,
nights.
work her socks off. She'll be working far harder than we will. Don't know whether she knows that yet. She does. She's very.
She does. She's excellent. And I really like that because I like the idea that from the last one, we're already budgeting to think about how we grow it as a community. And because this is our platform, that we have a say in how we shape, and I think I've been talking to people about this a lot this week. Like, one, I've had a phone call with the funders last week. I'm actually preparing a report for them today. And I was saying to them, like, writers really don't get paid. Like, you go to festivals and everybody else gets paid except the writer, who's the person that the people have come to see. So I really feel this is kind of saying, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. And one, we're doing it for ourselves now, but I like to think that would have ripples into our world, that it would kind of, so if you're seeing this and you're somewhere else in the country or another part of London or even West London, I don't mind, and you take, actually, we should be doing that. That should absolutely be happening. Would make it extra worthwhile to do, just beyond our immediate circle. People will never know, never meet. Um, to think that it could change things to other writers too.
Absolutely, it's so important. Connection is everything, right? And having transparent conversations about what's really going on, like saying that the writer. I think most readers going to festivals would be really shocked to know that the only person not being paid on a stage potentially is the person they've paid a ticket to come and see. That's already a piece of public service, and to hear, and also Emma said that last week about
Mm,
her own. She's touring round with her brilliant book, and she's having to do most of that for free, which is not accessible to many people and writers. And
mm,
it's so we've got to start changing the narrative around. Writing is a job, and even if you're not doing it as a job, even if you're doing it as your hobby or something you do because you have a passion to do it, you should be paid for it. If you're submitting it to a competition or whatever, if that you really should, because it's hard graft. And
mm.
Amy, that this is my soapbox. That we have to protect our rights and protect our money, and I think it's really important. So that means that stuff like write up is so vital, and it also means that new first time writer who comes to write up and submits and is in our selection, and hopefully that will be the case, and gets that first. Think about that first tiny bit of money. It
Mm.
doesn't matter about the amount, but that's legitimacy. That's saying you are a writer. Welcome to our community. You can do this. If you can't see it, you can't be it. It's as simple as that.
And I know Rachel, who's a poet who also read it right up, I've seen her in lots of interviews said since, who said, like, it's really, she doesn't get paid very often, and she's a professional, she's a poet, and just how important it is. And it is that sense of, it's not easy, but it helps you get over that imposter syndrome, but also to be more challenging to say, well, are you going to pay me? Like, I think even it's a mindset, right? Like,
To ask the question and say, I am worth paying. Are you going to pay me? And maybe that results in you not doing an appearance or not doing something. And maybe equally, you'll decide this place, they can't pay me for a very good reason. And I will do it, but it's about choice, right? With
that
every,
choice.
about choice.
Absolutely.
Right.
A- And Tom is standing for ALCS. So Tom, would you like to just mention that?
I will just quickly. The Authors Licensing and Collecting Society, known as ALCS, they look after secondary rights. So if you've got published books with ISBNs, or magazine articles, or published plays, as I do, or television or radio, some film, anything that could have a secondary life, they go around and collect money for you. You may not know that they're collecting money for you, and there's thousands of pounds worth of unclaimed money that you might be able to get your hands on if you've written something and published something. So you can check that on their website, and then if you sign up and you're accepted as a member, which is either free if you're a member of the Society of Authors or the Writers Guild, or a small payment of your first. Um, chunk of money to them, then you can register all your works, all your writing, and they will pay you twice a year from various sources, including international television broadcasts and things like that, and articles, and the schools collecting. Society for various educational bodies collect money, so they'll do all of that, and it just comes into your bank every twice a year if you're lucky. And it's for me, it's been the that has been the thing, exactly what we're talking about. When I was only writing poems, or I was just doing a little bit of article writing when I was at university, that was the thing that chunk of money every half year was the thing that made me think, oh yes, I am a writer. I am going to be a writer. This is a way to do it. And so I'm really passionate about making sure that it was Disability Wealth Gap Day this week, and that's one of my big things. And I really want to try and lower the wealth gap for disabled people, because it's massive at the moment, and for so many other groups as well. But that's my particular one at the moment. And so I'm standing to join the board of the Authors Licensing and Collecting Society. So if you're a member, you've got till Monday to cast your vote, and it doesn't have to be for me. Genuine, doesn't have to be for me. It'd be lovely if it was, but there are some great candidates there, and turnout was really low last year. So I'm just really trying to get better turnout for voting. So even if it's not you, spread the word. I'd be super grateful, because I think it's really important, again, to have real representation on boards, not just this board, but I think until we've got full representation of every group and member of society on various big boards in business and in the arts in particular, I don't think we're going to see those changes that we maybe want to see. And I think that does trickle down to writers being paid at festivals, writers being paid at events, because I think if it's run by writers, as this is, Amy, very simple thing for you as a writer, because you know about writing, to say, I'm going to pay everyone. That doesn't seem like a radical thing. But if it's run by big business, or people who don't write and think we do this and sit around in our dressing gowns all day, then maybe it's not such a priority to get people paid, because we're only faffing about, right? Which is
Yeah.
so not true. So not
It's
true.
it's
But it's
interesting because
hard.
I saw Margaret Atwood on Monday, which was amazing because
What
I
was
have
that like? Must be extraordinary.
it was amazing. And she'll never know, so I'll say this, but she was being did I voice note you afterwards? She was being interviewed by one of my lecturers from university. So I was there with my best friend Mark, and she is an amazing person, this academic, but she's terrifying, and she's always like the ballsiest person in the room. So to see her put in her place by Margaret Atwood was a little bit of a thrill, which is awful. Which, but I thought what was interesting was Margaret Atwood was talking, like when she was talking, because she's written a memoir and she's 85 now. And obviously, she was also married to a writer. So, what she was talking about was, in the 70s and the 80s, they were very much involved in getting up. I think it's like the Writers Union or Writers Guild of Canada, for exactly this reason, that they were like, writers just weren't getting paid and it wasn't right, and they were kind of involved in it. And she was talking about how much politics and writing are interlinked, whether you think of yourself as a political person or not. Having that platform, having that voice, makes such a difference. And it also means we're quite set up, because our business is storytelling. So, being able to get people to understand ideas. She was talking about that kind of responsibility. And she was also saying, people would always say, well, you love writing, it's your life. Why do you need to be paid for it?
Yeah, that's the biggest lie, and people don't mean it in a unkind way. They mean it in a really generous way of, oh my goodness, you're doing the thing you wanted to do, and I'm happy for you. But yeah, it's when you were up last night doing a funding application. You were telling me,
Yeah.
funding report.
Till 12:30, yeah.
It's a that's still storytelling, because you've got to tell a story. That's still using all your skills. But I don't think that's what people mean when they say you're doing your passion. You know what I mean? And certainly, if you're writing I've been writing a lot of scene by scene. So the thing you write before you start the draft of a script this week, that is hard work. Doing the structure and the architecture of of a story. That's not really the fun nice bits of writing dialogue or writing the actual scenes. It's architectural work. It's really hard. And then I had two meetings yesterday, which may or may not go anywhere. That's all. Yeah, it's not. I'm hugely passionate about the stories I'm trying to tell, but it's a job. It is literally my job, and there must be, as I think most mornings, there must be an easier way to make a living than
Yeah,
than this.
there is. And it's interesting because you have to be all the people in your company. You have to be the accountant and the HR and be kind to yourself, and you have to decide what you're going to spend time in and what you're going to resource, and like just like all these elements when really all you want to do is write, but you have to kind of like learn to do all these other things which is why I think being in community really helps us. One, it helps us with our writing practice, definitely. Like my best friend Mark said this to me when I was with him at Margaret Atwood. He was like, I think it's so great. He said, I can't wait until I finish my PhD and I can join you all. Because he was like, when actors aren't acting, they're in an acting class. When dancers aren't in a show, they're in a dance class. And it's like, so writers need something like that too, which I think is why we all enjoy like the circle so much, or like coming together.
Oh, I love the circles, and I was so jealous of you yesterday. Do you want to talk a little bit about how yesterday went? Because
It
obviously it
was
was your
lovely. It was
week.
really funny because so yesterday we had a 1-day writers retreat day. And it's one of those things, like I felt a bit awkward calling it writers retreat because to me like a retreat is when you go off to the country and get a massage or something. But I did
I look
I
forward
I
to
did
that
say
retreat.
I
Run
did
that.
say to them, I think we should do a self-hosted one, and I'll drive everybody to Gladstone one day, and we can all just go like do a self-hosted one. Um, but yes, so we had a writer's retreat, and this was actually Melanie's idea, and then backed up by Kevin, who are regulars at our writers' circle. They really wanted to have 1 day of just writing, nothing else, like no readings, no, no performance, no questions, no prompts, just writing. And you had said this. I remember when you were talking about the Gladstone and we were talking about the London Library,
Mm,
about that thing of being in community and the quality of the silence when you're all working on something, but you're together. It's like
yeah.
this really interesting shift. And it was funny because I was like, okay, I can do that because we all value the circles so much. So I organised that. So yesterday, well, in the room where we have our writers' circle, they said also it was really funny because the room was set up differently because I gave everybody, I moved all the furniture around in the building and everybody had a desk. So everybody had a desk, everybody had a pack. Because I was thinking, what would I need? And I was like Little Red Riding Hood walking through West London with my wicker basket full of like snacks and teas and treats and things. And we got it all set up and it was lovely and we just wrote. And my glass sand timer. So I did that. And they said, I think we wrote for 4 hours with breaks, but they said it felt like half an hour. They were like, I can't, and everybody did about 1,000 words, like within the course of the day.
And that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was lovely. And they all asked me to organise another one. And I was like, I will when I get time to actually sit down in my diary. I've got a lot of people pending at the moment. I'm not doing a good job. But it was so nice. And I that wasn't my idea. That was their idea. And I kind of just put it together.
But that obviously came out of a great need, again, to I don't like the word legitimize, but I think it's the best one maybe we have, to legitimize writing. Like that was a day for them, whatever the rest of their lives are this week or that last night, in those 4 hours that day, they were writers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nobody could say you're not a writer. And that's so part of it, so part of Write Up, in fact, so part of everything you do too, which is wonderful, to give people permission. It's about a permission slip, and I think that's so valuable at the moment and just really important. And yeah,
I really hope as well that people do pledge and come. Like one, I mean, I'm
you've
always
still
so
time, everyone. You've still time.
you've
Just
still
pledge.
time. So we've 12 days. We're at 800 and something pounds. I'm not sure. I need to check. I think it's about £850. We the target that we have for our 50% match funding, I think, is 2,225. And I think it's that thing, if people don't realize the costs in like hiring a venue, sorting out all the microphone, like all these kind of things that have to go on, paying everybody, like just doing all the things. And and it's funny because when I had the conversation with the funders, they said, and I think I mentioned this to them, and they were like, "Oh, why are you doing this again?" And I was like, "Well, because people really want it." And we've actually, so our target is less this time. One, because it's Christmas, and I think people are under so much pressure at this time. I wanted to shave £1,000 off it. Actually, it hasn't really come off it. I'm just trying to find creative ways to do all the things with a bit less budget. But they did say to me, if there's a real will and people get behind this again, they will think about really increasing the budget for future ones. Because I was also talking to them about, I think it would be nice to create a cohort with people that come through. So it's not just one night and then you're off, and we could think about how to support them. But also with some of them, and I don't know because how far you into the reading, Tom, but some of them, when I was reading them, I thought, this is a great idea. It's got real potential, but they need a little bit of work, and a bit of guidance.
Mm.
Mainly around like show, don't tell. How do you go into a scene? How do you move? A bit, and I was thinking it'd be really nice to have some bursaries to go, look, you haven't got through, but we think you have real potential. Would you like to come and work with Amy or Tom or Emma or whoever? And let's just see if we can tease this out a bit. I just thought that would be a really nice thing to add in terms of the care piece for because it's horrible when you get rejected. And I suppose I'm just thinking about how do you make it into more of a win for people, even in rejection.
Yes, I so agree with that, and I've tried not to think. It's not funny. I've tried not to think that I'm going to be rejecting people at the moment because I'm just doing this first read and enjoying it. But yeah, it is horrible to be rejected. Yeah, it was. But it can also be, yes, if it's about not, even if hopefully we can offer those bursaries, and what a great idea, but it's also about saying there's a community here, keep in touch with us. This is not drawing a line and saying never darken our door again. This is about, so it's about finding a way to just say, you're still in our tribe very much, and you're welcome to all the other things that you run and things on Substack. So yeah, there is a way of doing it, but gosh, it's tough to be rejected when you've put your heart and soul into 500 words, and they're the best you can do at that time, and that's the same for all of us, by the way. However much writing you do, and I've done an awful lot, still get rejected very regularly, and it hurts. It really hurts, and I think it's not. I don't know. I feel like it's not something you should learn to take too lightly either. In a way, you should still get angry about it, because I think that drives you on. And I always have a rule that I'm allowed a whole day. The next day, whenever the rejection has happened, the following day, I'm allowed a really long day, a whole day of moaning about it, being upset about it, punching pillows, whatever I need to do, telling everybody about it, wanging on, and nobody's able to interrupt me. I can talk about it as much as I like, and then the minute midnight comes on that day, it's done, and we never mention it again. And that tends to work quite well. Uninterrupted time for a whole day, and then we move on and say, right, what's the plan with this? Where else can it go? Where can it be submitted to? What can you do with it? Who's gonna love it next? So I think that would be my tiny bit of advice. But it's really hard. It's really hard, and not everybody has access to those invaluable circles, and that's been wonderful for me because I love a group. I love a feedback group and a mentoring group, and I'm in several, and they make all the difference to one's writing. And you don't have to, by the way, come to a group run by you or run by you can find your group of friends, whatever stage you're all at. You might be at similar stage, and you will learn. And people do know how to give. Even new writers know what a story is. They know inside themselves, beginning, middle, and end. Does it pay off? Does it keep you interested? Does it move you? And you will see in a group situation that the quality of feedback will improve as the
Yes.
writing improves, and the other way around. That's a fascinating. I mean, you and I have both done lots of courses, Amy, and things like that, and that's true, isn't it? That feedback and writing, quality of writing, go sort of hand in hand in a way. Um,
It's the critical thinking, because, in thinking about other people's work, it helps you also think about your own from different perspectives. And it's the language as well, isn't it? It's a bit like, you could speak French, but if you never went to France and you never spoke French, your French would deteriorate. I think it's a bit like that sometimes. It's having that real activation all the time.
muscle. It's a
Yeah.
muscle. Really, it really is. And not being frightened to say, even to a writer who's been doing it a long time, I don't mind who says, first couple of sentences, I was a bit bored there, kid get in a bit later, come on, get it moving, and at the last circle, the piece I bought, everybody said the same thing, which was really useful. Pay it off better, find a better shape for it, and of course, I know that, and if somebody brought me something like that, that's probably some feedback I would give. But somehow I hadn't been able to find that shape until the group helped me to find it, and then that was wonderful because suddenly you thought, there's the missing piece that when I was slaving at it, I just couldn't find. So it's great for all of us. It's really important, and it's really also the other thing I would say: be an audience, be a good audience. This isn't just come to write up, though obviously come to write up, but also be a great audience. That's really important. If you can, go to things like your Margaret Atwood event and go and see your mates at festivals, go and be supportive, but also listen, read, all those things that people say, they're really important. If you don't have access to things, it shouldn't be a barrier if you can't get to stuff. There's brilliant chats like this on Substack, for one thing, and also, there's wonderful books to be read, and there's community there if you want it. It's there, and I also recognize that some writers just don't want community, and that's also fine. And they're not chatty catties like we are, who want to hang out with their mates, but
I think even the introverts actually seem to really enjoy these smaller groups, like the intimate groups. Like I've had quite a few of them say that even though it's not their natural thing. And one writer actually came yesterday to the retreat day. She's older, and I think she's also a writing teacher. And she said to me, "I wish I'd thought 20 years ago to do what you're doing now about being in community." She said, "I feel like that's the piece that's actually been missing from me all these years." Also, because she teaches writing, but you can see how it could end up going. I think I don't know whether it's because we started because I started out in theatre and you're obviously very still in theatre. But that kind of equality and the creation and the coming together that you don't maybe it's not so isolated or hierarchical, or well, I mean it is with directors. I mean they are the top of the pyramid, but
so they so they
say that
say.
again.
Um, no, but I think what is true about that. You're right, but also theatres run on writers' groups. Every theatre you can think of has it. You came up through a writers' group. I came up through a
Yeah.
writers' group. It's about it's about groups, because making drama is about collaboration, and so that's a perfectly natural thing. So I think maybe that is part of it as well, that we're very used to the workshop group situation, and you get very close to people very quickly in a company, in a theatre company, or in a theatre writers group, because you are maybe over 12 weeks or something creating new plays and sharing scenes and doing all sorts of things like that. So it feels very natural. So I do have to sort of check myself in, because I'm so prepared to sort of share something very quite early compared to a lot of people, really. And I like the feedback, fairly early, and the robust conversation, and get other eyes on it. And it's, yeah. So I sometimes have to check myself in with that, because that's not everybody's bag, but it's how I was brought up as a writer, I suppose. That's the thing.
And I think there aren't the grants for people that there used to be like back in the day, because not for our generation, but I can remember, coming to university and reading about Carol Churchill, and they'd very much talk about stables of writers. They'd really think of that as their stable, and they'd put a lot of investment into them. And then even with the novelists, if I think about Sue Townsend and Alan Bennett and all this, I mean, they're very eminent writers. But they got a lot of opportunities. Like I can remember, reading about Townsend saying they all got like put on a bus and they went around Eastern Europe, and they were like just to kind of absorb things like experiences. There was kind of that idea that writers also need stimulation, opportunities, and experiences, and all these things because it colours their writing.
And again, to connect, if you're
Yeah,
all if you're all being flown out to somewhere and you're then connecting and
you
doing.
know, on a bus, but
But you know what I mean,
yeah,
you've got time to connect with each other and share experiences, and yeah, it does all come back to that being in community, and why events like this are so important. And even in the little bit of reading of the submissions that I've done already, you can see that sense of knowing people are writing for a community event, you
yeah,
know. And I think, I don't know this, because of course um I don't know who's written what, which is very exciting. But I think people have potentially been a little bit braver in things they might not have sent to other places, because they know maybe the history, or they know you, or they know the kind of vibe of write up. I can already see that people might not have sent these pieces to to a more formal competition. I don't
no.
know whether I'm right about that, or maybe they've written
I
something.
think I think you're right. I was thinking about it this morning because obviously for the Christmas one, I think I would like to make it like a bit more intimate. And I was thinking like, you're right, you can be a bit braver because you're within your community, and it's one where you're not having to like sell yourself in quite the same way. It's not like when you go to these things and it's just I remember actually talking to Michaela and Matt about this because they're emerging and they've won quite a lot of awards recently, and they get pushed onto platforms where they're told, there's publishers in the audience, there's agents in the audience, go and do it. And it's a lot of pressure, whereas this isn't really about that.
That's very wearing. I mean, and also this narrative around that we're all terribly lucky. You're very lucky to be in this room and with these people, and none of that with write up. If you're there, you're there because um that's absolutely the right thing. There's no luck involved. It's your writing that's taken you there, and I will say that until the cows come home. And I think I think we've got to get rid of this it's the luck. It's sitting down and making it happen. The words are good, and maybe you read well as well. And I'm so looking forward to hearing. That's the treat of write up. I'm so looking forward to hearing the writers in their literally in their own words and their own voices. It's very that's a lovely thing, because we feel then. I mean, I didn't know Michaela, I didn't know Matt before the last event, but I felt like by the time they'd done their reading, I felt like I knew them quite well. you know,
Yeah.
because I'd literally heard it in their own speaking voice and seen them at that lectern, you know. So it was yeah, there's a lovely connective tissue, you know. It's no,
Are you going to go in the pulpit this time, Tom?
I may have to. Yes, that's probably my penance, isn't it, to go in the pulpit and do what are you going to wear? Have you decided what you're going to
Yeah.
wear?
But I just have a wardrobe that's just full of dressing up. Like, it's not even a big deal. But thank you
Well,
so much.
if people need a reason to pledge for Right Up and come for Amy's wardrobe, basically. I think you should have a costume change halfway through. That's what I'm angling for. Up with the
Amy Fallon said to me like a few weeks ago, I think you should do a Substack piece on all the things like in your wardrobe because every time I see you, I'm like, what is that? And where did you get it? And I'm just like, like
I see a whole new career here for you,
yeah,
Amy.
but I think it's just dressing up for me because when when I met Farah Store at Christmas last year, and obviously it was all the magazine journalists, they're very chic, and I was like, oh, it's a Christmas party. I'll wear a Victorian massive taffeta skirt and a velvet top 'cause it's Christmas. And I had on, like a big blue coat. And not in a mean way, but she went to me, you look like Snow White.
Well, we've had Red Riding Hood and Snow White in one conversation, and Rachel, hello Rachel, nice to see you on here. Is saying she's excited to see what you wear, and so are we all.
I
That's the
don't know if it's that
reason I agreed to
exciting.
do the judging. Quite frankly, to see what Amy's gonna wear.
So Write Up is the 13th of December. If people have made comments, I'm really sorry if I haven't said anything. My phone isn't showing the thing. But it's 13th of December in West London. It's in the evening, it's a Saturday. It's on the District line and the Piccadilly line, and there's normally like parking, like it's all good. And we will be having mulled wine and mince pies and all the Christmas feels. And I very cleverly booked the church on the day they decorate it for Christmas. So they will have been in there in the afternoon and Christmasified it. That's not a word. But we are super excited. Please do come. Everyone is so friendly and so welcoming. Like, I know it feels like me and Tom have been friends for decades, but we've actually only known each other since May.
That's right. That's right. Yes,
But
but
it does feel like that.
that's being a part of this community. That
Yeah,
I think that's the proof of it, really. And yeah, I think if you need proof, that's actually it. And we've done a lot in that time.
yeah.
To be fair, we have. But yeah, no, do come, everyone. And I think as far as I just want to say that you know, we're talking about pledging. We know it's really hard at the moment, so any tiny thing you can pledge is really welcome. It doesn't have to be a massive gesture. It all really helps. I know everybody says that, but I really mean it, and it
Absolutely.
would be lovely. And think of your pledge as just a ticket, you know, to come and join us. So it would be lovely to see everyone there. Come join in, and I'm very excited to get on with the reading, and then Amy, Emma, and I will get our elbows out and fight it out to the death, whatever that looks like. If you don't see one of us at Right Up, that means the other two won, basically. Um, I'm ready. I'm ready. But thank you, Amy. I'm so looking forward to it, and it'll be a lovely. For me, I'm going to think of it as the start of the
It's
Christmas
our Christmas party as much as
that
anything.
party. Yeah,
Like, it's the writer's Christmas party, like, where you'll come and everyone will talk to you. Because sometimes you go to writer's Christmas parties and nobody talks to you. Like, occasionally,
everyone will talk to you,
everyone will talk.
and if nobody's talking to you, come and find me, and I'll talk to you. So,
Yes, and I told you that I'm going to have a writer host each table this time.
oh yes,
Mhm.
gosh, okay,
And there
yeah.
might be a few other little things that I need to tell you as well.
Me up in the pulpit proclaiming, and I'll move everybody round if I don't think people are in the right place.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, so much love.
so much love.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye bye.